Friends, in today's lecture, we are going to see certain questions from chapter number 8. Basically, we are going to do question number 8.7, then 8.8, and then 8.9. All these questions are about the calculation of economic batch quantity. Now, we have already seen the concept of economic batch quantity. Economic batch quantity is the batch size that should be produced by an entity which is undergoing batch production or which is undertaking batch production, so that what is the objective of producing or keeping the batch size as EBQ? The objective is to minimize the aggregate of batch setup cost and the inventory carrying cost. Okay, now what is the formula for that? The formula for EBQ is, okay, economic batch quantity or EBQ. What is the formula? The formula is square root of 2DAS divided by C. Now, what is D? D stands for annual demand. Friends, just recollect the formula which we had learned when we did economic order quantity in chapter number 2. This formula is also very much similar to the formula of economic order quantity, for a simple difference that instead of ordering cost in economic order quantity, here we are taking the batch setup cost. Okay, whenever you have a new batch production, whatever initial cost you are incurring, that is what you call as the batch setup cost, and that is this S. Okay, so S stands for batch setup cost, and this batch setup cost will be incurred for each and every new batch, incurred for every batch. And what is S? Sorry, what is C? C is nothing but the carrying cost.
I didn't catch that. Could you try again?
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. So C is carrying cost of inventory per unit. Okay. And at EBQ, what is the advantage? The total of or aggregate of batch setup cost. Okay, plus total inventory carrying cost. These two will be the minimum. This is our objective. Okay, so at EBQ, the aggregate of total batch setup cost and total inventory carrying cost will be minimum. Okay, now let's take the question number 8.7, which is a direct calculation of EBQ, nothing new in that. Okay, what is given? Monthly demand for a product is 500 units. Then setup cost per batch is rupees 60. Cost of manufacturing per unit is 20. Then rate of interest is 10% per annum. Determine economic batch quantity. Okay, now how do we have to do this? First, first you have to find out these factors D, S, and C. Okay, so the first one is D. D is equal to annual demand. Friends, here you have to be a bit careful because sometimes what is given would be the monthly demand or weekly demand like that. But when you apply it in the formula, what you need to take is the annual demand. So D is the annual demand. And what is the annual demand? They say that monthly demand for a product is 500 units. So annual demand will be 500 units into 12. That is equal to 6,000 units. Okay. Now, next, S is batch setup cost. And I think that is directly given to be rupees 60. Now, what is next? You have to find out the carrying cost per unit or inventory carrying cost per unit. Now, how can you compute this inventory carrying cost per unit? See, friends, we have already learned when we did economic order quantity, the inventory carrying cost will include a lot of things. It's not just the interest cost, or it's not the warehouse cost. There could be a lot of things which will be included in the inventory carrying cost. So depending upon the information that is available in the question, you have to compute the inventory carrying cost. And in this case, what you have here is, you know what is the cost of manufacturing per unit, and you know what is the interest cost. So basically, here we are considering only the interest cost that is required for financing the working capital that is blocked in the inventory as the inventory carrying cost. Okay, whenever you have an inventory, and suppose you have an average inventory costing rupees 1 lakh. Now that 1 lakh rupees of working capital should be blocked to maintain the inventory to the extent of 1 lakh. Am I right? So that 1 lakh, from where do you get that 1 lakh? That is your capital. And any capital for that matter has got an interest cost. Okay, so that interest cost have to be considered as the inventory carrying cost. Let me repeat, whenever you have the stock or inventory, okay, the inventory level will have to be maintained throughout the year. So every year you will be having an inventory. Let's say the inventory level you are keeping is 1 lakh rupees. Now, if you want to have inventory of 1 lakh, you need to invest 1 lakh rupees to get that 1 lakh rupees worth inventory, right? So from where do you invest this 1 lakh rupees? You cannot invest simply, you have capital. That capital only you have to invest in that. So when you invest your capital into this, that capital has got a cost. And what is that cost? That is the cost of your working capital. And that is what is given as the rate of interest. Okay, so total inventory into your rate of interest, that will be the total inventory carrying cost. Now that divided by total number of units. Okay, total number of units of your inventory will give you the carrying cost per unit. Or in other words, if you want to find out the inventory cost per unit, what you can do? Okay, what you need is the inventory carrying cost per unit. This is equal to total inventory carrying cost divided by number of units of inventory. Now, total inventory carrying cost is equal to inventory cost per unit divided by, okay, or inventory cost per unit into total number of units into interest rate per annum, whole divided by number of units of inventory. Okay, now what happens to this and this get cancelled? So what is left is only inventory cost per unit. Inventory cost means the manufacturing cost or the purchase cost of your inventory into interest rate per annum in percentage. And that will give you, what is the inventory cost here? It is given to be rupees 20. Rupees 20 into what is the interest rate? Interest is 10%. That is rupees 2 per unit. Okay, rupees 2 per unit. Now what do you have to do? You got all these formulas. Now simply substitute that. So economic batch quantity EBQ is equal to 2 into, what is annual demand? It is 6,000 units into, what is the batch cost per unit per batch? It is rupees 60 per batch, whole divided by, now inventory carrying cost is rupees 2 per unit. Okay, that means You can cancel this rupees and this rupee. So what is left is, okay, 2 into 6,000 into 60 divided by 2, and the square root of which will come to 600 units per batch. So for each batch, you need to have an batch quantity of 600 units. In every batch, the batch size should be 600 units, so that the total of your batch setup cost and inventory carrying cost will be the minimum. Okay, so that is question number 8.7. Now let's move to the next question, question number 8.8. Okay, friends, please pause the video, read the question, and then we will read it again. Okay, let's read it once again. Messrs. KBC Bearings Limited is committed to supply 48,000 bearings per annum. So what is the annual demand here? 48,000 bearings per annum. To Messrs. KMR Fans on a steady daily basis. It is estimated that it cost ₹1 as inventory holding cost per bearing per month. See, you have to be very careful. This is inventory holding cost per bearing or per unit. Per bearing means per unit. But what is given is per month. And that the setup cost per run. Per run means what? Per run means per batch. Okay. Setup cost per batch of bearing manufacture is 3,200. What are the questions here? Determine the optimum run size. Optimum run size means you are required to compute EBQ. Okay. State what would be the interval between two consecutive optimum runs. What does it mean? See, you need to find out what should be the interval or the number of days gap between two consecutive runs. Means after completing one batch, how much time will be free before you start the next batch. Okay, that is the interval between two consecutive optimum runs. How do you get that? If you know what is the total number of batches to be produced in a year, okay, now total number of days in a year divided by total number of batches will give you what is the time gap for each one. We will do that formula. And also you are required to find out the minimum inventory cost that you have to compute using this formula, optimum run and all those formula. Okay, so let's start doing this. So first is computation of EBQ. So question number 8.8. EBQ. Okay, what all things you have here? What is the formula? The formula is EBQ equal to 2DS divided by C. D is equal to, what is the annual demand here? Annual demand is given to be 48,000. It is directly given. Okay. Now S is nothing but the setup cost. That is also given to be 3,200. Per batch or per run. Now, what is the inventory carrying cost? C. C is equal to ₹1 per month, and that is equivalent to, see, equivalent symbol will be ₹1 into 12. That is ₹12 per annum. So this is equal to 2 into 48,000 into 3,200 into 12. Okay, so which is nothing but, if you solve this, how much you will get? Root of 2 into 4,800 into 3,200 into 12. You will get it as, okay, 5060 units. Okay, 5060 units. 5,060 units will be your economic order quantity. Now, if you get this economic batch quantity, it means that the optimum size of each batch will be 5060 units. Now, what is you have to what is that you have to find out next? You need to know how many batches have to be run in a particular year. Okay, now how do you compute that? How can you compute that? Now, annual demand is equal to 48,000. Now, number of batches in a year is equal to annual demand divided by number of units per batch. I think there is some lagging in what is being displayed on the board. So that comes to 48,000 units divided by 5060 units per batch. That will give you how many batches? The number of batches will be, let me do the calculation. It will be 48,000 divided by 5060. So you will get it to be 9.48 runs or batches. Runs means batches. Now, can you have 9.48 batches? No. One batch should be produced in full. So you have to produce how many batches? 10 runs or 10 batches. 10 times you will have to set up the batch. Okay, so that is it. Now, which means in a year you have how many days? 365 days. And in a year you need to have 10 batches only, which means what should be the time gap between two runs? So two consecutive batches or runs is equal to 365 days divided by number of batches per annum. That is 365 days divided by 10, and that will give you 36.5 days, which means the time gap between two batches should be 36.5 days. Okay, now what else? So this is the answer for the second one. Now you have to find out the optimum inventory cost. That is the third one. So optimum inventory cost. How do you get the optimum inventory cost? Optimum inventory cost, we have already learned it in EOQ. So I'm not explaining it further. What is the formula? The formula is very simple. This is equal to the average inventory held throughout the year into inventory carrying cost per unit. We have already computed the inventory carrying cost per unit. So that multiplied by the total number of inventory. But here what you have to take is the average inventory. Okay, then in that case, you will get the total inventory cost. Now, how do you get that? See, average inventory, how do you compute? In case of EOQ, how did you get the average inventory? Average inventory is nothing but EOQ divided by 2, which means the batch size is here. What is the batch EBQ? EBQ batch size is 5060. So at one batch, you will produce 5060 units. Now, so when you start the batch on April 1st and you complete the production on April 1st, the output will be 5060. So on 1st April, you will have 5060. April 2nd, you will be selling something out of that. April 3rd, you will be selling something on that. So the holding inventory will come down. Okay. Now, when is the next batch? Next batch is after 37 days or 36.7 days. That means you will be doing the next batch in April, after April, then May 6th or May 7th. That will be the next batch. So on May 7th, when you go for the next batch, the inventory will be 0 because you have sold everything. Okay. And May 6th, you are going for the second batch. So all throughout from April 1st to May 6th, okay, which is the time gap between two batches or two production. In this period, the inventory is actually coming down. So on an average, over this period, what was your inventory position? That will be 5060 divided by 2. Okay. So I'm taking it as the average inventory will be economic batch quantity divided by 2 into what is the inventory carrying cost per unit? It is rupees 12 per annum. Okay. Now to do this, the assumption is that it is assumed that the sale, okay, the sale happens evenly throughout the year. The sale happens evenly throughout the period. Don't write year. Throughout the period. So that means it is going to be 5060 units divided by 2 into 12, and that will give you 2530 into 12, that is rupees 30,360. So this is the optimum inventory carrying cost. Okay. Yeah. So that's all with the second question. I think this is clear to you. See, same logic, same calculations as what you did in economic order quantity. Friends, let me remind you, you may get questions from both EOQ as well as EBQ. Sometimes you may get, so 5 marks from EOQ, 5 marks or 4 marks from EBQ. You can get 9 or 10 marks from these two topics alone. So make the concepts very clear, or at least you will get one question from either of these topics. So this is a sure shot question. So the calculation of EOQ and EBQ should be clear to you. Okay, right. Now, moving to the last question in the chapter, that is question number 8.9. So you can pause the video and read the question. Okay. Now, what is given in the question? 1 minute. Okay. A company has an annual demand from a single customer for 50,000 liters of a paint product. So there is an annual demand from a single customer. What is annual demand? 50,000 liters of a paint product. So it is annual demand. So demand for an year. Be very careful. The total demand can be made up of a range of color to be produced in a continuous production run, after which a setup of the machinery will be required to accommodate the color change. So what happens is, once you start production of one particular production run, if you want to change the color, then you will have to move to the next run. Okay. And for each run, there will be additional setup cost that is incurred. Now, the total output of each color will be stored and then delivered to the customer as a single lot immediately before the production of the next color commences. So what you are doing, okay, today I am going to produce the first color. Let's say green is what I am going to produce today. So I started the production. I did the machine setup and all. Okay. And I started the production of this green color. Now green color production is over. What I do, whatever green color paint I have produced, that I will be stored, then I will be delivered it to the customer as a single lot, irrespective of the quantity. Once I complete the production of a particular color, then before I start the production of next color, I will store it, I will pack it, and I will deliver it to the customer as a single lot. Okay. Now the setup costs are rupees 100 per setup. Okay, setup cost are rupees 100 per setup. The service is supplied by an outside company as required. So whenever you want to set up, you call an outside guy and he comes and he does the setup and all. The holding costs are incurred on a rendered storage space. See, if you want to store the color which you have already produced, you need to have a rendered space for which you need to pay rental cost. And that cost rupees 50 per square meter per annum. So for each annum, it costs rupees 50 per square meter. Each square meter can hold 250 liters suitably stacked. So for each square meter, 250 liters you can hold. Now, what is the requirement? The requirement is to calculate the total cost per year, where batches may range from 4,000 to 10,000 liters in multiples of 1,000 liters, and hence choose the production batch size which will minimize the total cost or minimize the cost. So the batch size may vary from 4,000 to 10,000 liters. It could be 4,000 or it could be 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, 8,000, 9,000, or even 10,000. So for each of these batch size, what is the total cost that you are incurring? That is what you have to find out. Then what you have to do? You have to compute the EBQ. Use the economic batch size formula to calculate the batch size, which will minimize the total cost. So here it is like one is trial and error method. Okay, you don't know what is this EBQ and all, but you do a trial and error. You start with batch size of 4,000. What is the total cost? 5,000. What is the total cost? 6,000. What is the total cost? Like that, you continue up to 10,000 and you see at which batch size you have the minimum cost. Okay, that is the layman's approach. Okay, and you find out which production, whether it is 4,000 or 5,000, or at which production the total cost is less. That is one calculation. Second calculation, you should go with what? You should compute the economic batch size. When the person who is sitting there is a chartered accountant or a cost accountant, he will simply, instead of doing this trial and error, he will directly compute what? The economic batch size and determine what is the batch size at which the minimum cost will be incurred. Okay, so this is the calculation. Now, can we try this? Okay, so question number 8.9. First is what you have to do. You have to see the total cost at each of these production levels. So statement of cost at varying batch sizes. Batch size, it could be 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000. Oh, $8,000, 9,000. I think some problem. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All in liters. Okay. Now that is the batch size. Now what you have to do? You know what is the total demand. Okay. You know what is the total demand. Total demand is 50,000 liters. So number of batches. How many batches will be required in the first case? In the first case, it will be 50,000 is your demand. So demand divided by that is 50,000 divided by 4,000. So that will be 12.5. Now this will be 10. Now 50,000 divided by 6,000. That is 8.33. No, 50,000 divided by 7,000. That is 7.14. Next is 50,000 divided by 8,000. 6.25. Now 50,000 divided by 9,000. Next is 5. Okay, this is the number of batches. Now what you have to do, there will be two types of cost. One is setup cost and the other one is holding cost. So you have to find out both the cost, setup cost and the inventory carrying cost, and take the total of both. That will give you the total cost for each. Okay, next. Okay, so what is the setup cost? Setup cost, they say that it is rupees 100 per setup. So 12.50 into 100, it will be 1250. You can take it in two ways. Either you simply multiply this fraction into 100, because we have not decided how much batches are happening. Okay, so you can simply multiply it with 100 with the fractions itself. So here it will be 1250, then 1000, then 833, 714, 625, 555, 500. Okay, that is the setup cost. Now what next? Next is holding cost. And what do they say about the inventory holding cost? They say that it has to be stacked in a rendered premises for which the cost is rupees 50 per square meter, and each square meter can hold 250 liters suitably stacked. Okay, so first we have to know what is the inventory size. Okay, inventory size is nothing but the batch size itself. Inventory quantity 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, 8,000, 9,000, 10,000. Okay, now that is the inventory quantity. Then next what? How much square feet required? Not square meter, square feet, square meters. Required. So that is 4,000 is your inventory, and each square meter can hold 250 liters. So 4,000 into 250, that is 16. 5,000 divided by 250, 20. 6,000 divided by 250, 24. 7,000 divided by 25, 250. 28. 8,000 divided by 250, 32. 9,000 divided by 250, 36. 10,000 divided by 250, 40. Okay, so cost of storage at what? Rupees 50 per square meter. Sixteen into 50, that is 800. 20 into 50, that is 1,000. Okay, now here there is a catch. I will come to that later. Okay, now 6,000, 24 into 50, 1200, 28 into 50, 1400, then 32 into 50, 1600, then 36 into 50, 1800, and this is 2000. But the problem is, friends, you won't have this inventory quantity of 4000 or 5000 all the time. We already saw in the previous question that this 4000 is only the peak inventory quantity. Okay, it is only the peak, and the inventory levels will come down accordingly. Now, what you hire is only the square meter. So depending upon your inventory capacity or inventory requirement, you can change the square meter space. Are you getting? So initially, in the beginning of the month, you will require, or at the time of your batch production, you may require how much? 16 square meters. But after 5 days, you will not require 16. You will reduce it to 15, then 14, then 30. Like that, you can keep on reducing the square meter or the space requirement as and when you sell the inventory. Because all the time, your inventory levels will not be 4000. You produced a batch. When the batch production is over, you have 4000. The very next day, you sell something out of this 4000. So it's come down. Next day, you sell something out of this. Again, it comes down. Like that, as and when you sell, your inventory quantity will come down. Okay. So as your inventory quantity comes down, what you can do with your the square feet or your storage space, that can also be reduced. So which means your average inventory level will be only the half of this, which means the cost of storage will be half of this only. Okay, so what you can write? However, the above inventory is the maximum level of inventory, which will get reduced as the sales happens. Therefore, the average inventory held will be half of EBQ. Therefore, the storage cost also will be 50% of maximum storage cost. Okay, so therefore, cost of storage for average inventory, this is 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, 1000. Okay, that is the cost of storage. Now, what is the total cost? Total cost means you have the setup cost plus storage cost. That will be 1250 plus 400. That is 1650. Next is you have 1000 plus 500. 1500. Next is 833 plus 600. 1433. Next is 714 plus 700. 1414. Next is 625 plus 800. That is 1425. Next is 555 plus 900. That is 1456. Next will be 500 plus 1000. That is 1500. So see out of this, which is the lowest? The lowest is at 1414. So it corresponds to what level? It corresponds to a batch size of 7000. So what you can write is the from the trial and error method, it can be seen that the total cost is minimum when the batch size is 7000 units, that is at rupees 1414 per annum. Okay, so 7000 units or liters. Now this is your trial and error calculation. Now what we are going to do, we are trying to do the compute the economic batch quantity and see whether you are getting the same result. Okay, so computation of economic batch quantity. Okay, demand, you know what is it? Annual demand, D is equal to 50,000, right? $50,000. Now, what is setup cost? Per run. That is rupees 100. Now, what is the carrying cost? Carrying cost per unit. They say that for 250 liters can be stored at a cost of rupees 50 per square meter. So, what will be the cost over here? The cost will be carrying cost per liter. Okay. Number of liters stored in 1 square meter is equal to 250 liters. Cost of storage in 1 square meter, that they say that it is rupees 50. Okay, therefore storage cost per liter is equal to rupees 50 divided by 250 liters, and that will come to rupees 0.20 per liter, and this is per annum. Okay, so here you got all the, this is C. Okay, now economic batch quantity. EBQ is equal to 2 into D into S divided by C will give you 2 into 50,000 into 100 into 0.2. That will give you 2 into 50,000 into 100 divided by 0.2. Okay, that will, and its square root. Okay, it will be how much? I think 50,000 into 2 into 100 divided by 0.2. That will comes to 5 crores, right? Okay. That comes to 7071.06 liters per batch. So with the formula, this is the exact EBQ. Whereas when you applied the trial and error, we got 7,000, which is more or less same. Okay. So the economic batch quantity is 7,071.06 liters per batch. Okay. So that is the batch size at which the total cost will be minimum. If you want to find out the total cost at this level, okay, how do you compute? The number of batches required at EBQ. That will be 50,000 is the annual demand divided by 7071. Okay. So 50,000 divided by 7071. That means you will have to have 7.08 batches rounded off. Okay. So total setup cost will be 7.08 batches into rupees 100. That is 708. Now, inventory carrying cost. Average inventory is equal to EBQ divided by 2. That is 7071 divided by 2. 3535.50 liters. That is the average inventory. And the carrying cost or holding cost. Three five 35.50 liters into what is the cost per liter? Cost per liter is 0.2. That is, it comes to rupees 707.10. Therefore, total cost is equal to rupees 708 plus rupees 707.10. That is equal to 708 plus 707.1 rupees 1415.10. Is it the same total cost over here? 1414. Here also you are getting 1415. So the total cost which you are getting is more or less same in both the places. Okay, so that's all with this. So question number 8.9 is also over. Now there is a small topic, that is the difference between job and batch costing. Basically, job costing is something which we have not learned so far. We are going to learn about job costing in the coming chapter only. Okay, now what is this job costing? Job costing means the costing which is done for a particular job. So far what we are doing, whether it is unit costing or batch costing, we were talking about uniform products only. Okay, which means whether it is batch or unit costing, all the products what you produce will be one and the same, similar products, homogeneous products we call. Whereas when it comes to job costing, each product you produce will be different. Say, for example, you are producing a machine. The machine will be produced according to the requirements or specifications of your customer. So the customer will see, okay, I need such a machine and this should have this specification, this capacity, this much power, all those things they will give. So depending upon the customer's order, we will take up the production. So each job will be unique or each job will be separate. So in that case, what you do? The cost have to be computed for each job separately, for which we use what? Job costing. Whereas batch costing is generally used for homogeneous products. Homogeneous products produced in lots or batches. Got it? So we will just read this. Job costing, a method of costing used for non-standard and non-repetitive products. That's what I told you. If it is a machine, each machine which what you produce will be separate, and the cost of each machine have to be calculated separately. Okay, so just take an example. Suppose you are a house contractor and you are constructing houses as per the requirements of the house owners. Okay, so what do? You go to customer A, and customer A says that I need such a house. It should have 5,000 square feet space, or it should have a beautiful lawn. It should be constructed in marbles only, Italian marbles only. So a lot of specification they will say. Now you come to me. I will tell you I need only 1,000 square feet house, and it should be located only in 5 cents. So a lot of requirements from my side. So the house what you construct to him cannot be compared with the house which I am constructing or you are constructing for me. Now there is another person, Mr. C. He has his own requirements. So you are constructing house to his requirements also. So the houses which you are constructing for each of us will be totally different. Now you cannot apply his costing, the first person costing to my house. You cannot apply my costing principles to the third one. So the cost have to be determined separately for each of the houses you are constructing. So this is job costing. Whereas suppose you are a villa manufacturer, there is a villa project. In a villa project, all these villas will be standard, uniform. Okay, so what do? There may be 100 villas, but all these 100 villas will be in the same manner. Whoever selects villa 1 or villa 2 or villa 3 or villa 100, it is going to have same cost. Maybe due to the location, there may be difference in pricing. That's different. That's on pricing. But cost perspective, all the villas will have same cost because all the specifications are one and the same. So this is homogeneous products. Okay. So batch costing is used for homogeneous products produced in a continuous production flows in lots. Now, in job costing, cost is determined for each job, whereas in batch costing, cost is determined for each batch. Now, in job costing, jobs are different from each other and independent of each other. Each job is unique. We have already seen that. Whereas in batch costing, products produced in a batch are homogeneous and lack of individuality. You cannot separate that villa 1 with villa 100. Both are one and the same. Okay, maybe location. One will be at the front end, the other one will be at the back. That depends. Otherwise, the construction cost and everything will be same for both villa 1 or villa 50 or villa 100. Okay, so this is the difference between job costing and batch costing. And with that, we have completed all the questions in this chapter. Okay, thank you.